The silence of deep space was not empty, it was heavy. It pressed against the thick armored hull of the massive ship hiding in the shadow of the moon. For 50 years, this vessel had drifted here, dark and cold, waiting for a command that never came. The crew inside lived in a cycle of training and maintenance, generation after generation, knowing that one day, the silence would break. That day was today. James stood on the bridge of the UES Resolute. He was a man carved from hard lines and harder choices. His gray hair was cut short, military style, and his eyes scanned the large main screen in front of him. The screen showed a view of the Earth, a blue and white marble floating in the dark. But around the Earth, there were other things. Strange, jagged ships shaped like teardrops, glowing with a soft violet light. They were there in the thousands. They were called the Vex. To the people of Earth, they were the boogeymen from the stars. 5 days ago, they had appeared and demanded total surrender. They said humanity was primitive, dangerous, and unworthy of the stars. When Earth refused to answer, the Vex destroyed the lunar research colonies. Now, they were turning their weapons toward the home planet. "Report," James said. His voice was low, but it carried across the quiet bridge. Sarah looked up from her station. She was young, sharp, and the best tactical officer the fleet had ever trained. Her fingers danced over the glass surface of her console, pulling up data streams. "The Vex fleet has formed a blockade around the equator, sir. They are charging their primary weapons. Sensors show energy spikes consistent with planet-cracking missiles. We have 10 minutes before they open fire on the major population centers. 10 minutes. That was all the time left for 8 billion people." James gripped the railing in front of him until his knuckles turned white. For half a century, the leaders of Earth had followed a policy of appeasement. They hid their strength, hoping the galaxy would leave them alone. They buried the Resolute and its sister ships in the dark, hoping never to use them. But hope was not a strategy. "Status of the stealth systems?" James asked. David's voice came from the engineering pit below the main deck. The big man wiped oil from his forehead with a rag. "Stealth generators are holding at 100%, Captain. But if we power up the engines, the cloak will drop instantly. We will be visible to their entire fleet." "They already know we are here," James said. "They just don't know what is here." Mark, the communications officer, looked pale. "Captain, I am receiving a transmission from the Vex flagship. It is on an open frequency. They are addressing Earth." "Put it on the main speakers," James ordered. A voice filled the bridge. It was cold, metallic, and utterly devoid of pity. "People of Earth. Your resistance is illogical. Your technology is crude. Your destruction is a mathematical certainty. You have one standard cycle to lower your planetary shields and accept the governance of the Vex Collective. If you refuse, we will begin the sterilization process." The message repeated, looping over and over again. It was a death sentence. James looked around the bridge. He saw Sarah's jaw set in determination. He saw David checking his monitors, ready to push the engines past the red line. He saw Mark holding his headset, listening to the panic in the voices of the Earth Defense Forces below. They were outgunned, outmatched, and out of time. "Humans have a saying," James said, speaking to the bridge crew, but feeling like he was speaking to history itself. "Speak softly and carry a big stick. We have whispered for 50 years. Now, it is time to shout." He straightened his uniform jacket. The crest on his chest, a golden eagle over a sword, seemed to gleam in the dim light of the bridge. "David," James said. Bring the main reactors online. Power to all systems. David grinned. It was a scary sight. Aye, Captain. Bringing the beast to life. The ship began to vibrate. It started deep in the belly of the supercarrier, a low thrum that grew into a roar. Lights that had been dimmed for emergency flickered on, bathing the bridge in a bright, artificial glow. Consoles that had been on standby flared to life, displaying streams of tactical data, weapon trajectories, and engine diagnostics. The air circulation fans spun up, blowing away the smell of stale air and replacing it with the scent of ozone and burning electronics. Sarah watched her screen intently. Shields are raising. Capacitors are charging. Weapon systems are coming online. Railguns are loaded. Mark, send a message to the Vex, James commanded. Sir, what do I say? Tell them this is the United Earthship Resolute. You are trespassing on sovereign territory. Withdraw immediately or face the consequences. Mark hesitated for a split second, then typed the message. He hit the send button. The signal shot out at the speed of light, racing toward the alien armada. James looked at the timer. 8 minutes. Sir, Sarah said, her voice tight. If we drop the cloak, we will be alone between them and the Earth. We are just one ship. James shook his head. No, Sarah. We are not just a ship. We are the embodiment of 50 years of paranoia, fear, and human ingenuity. We are the reason they should have been afraid of us all along. He walked down the steps from the command platform to the main floor. The crew watched him. They were scared, but they were ready. Helm, James said to the pilot sitting at the front. Take us out. Position us between the Vex fleet and the planet. Full thrust. The pilot, a young man named Kyle, nodded. Aye, sir. Taking us out. Prepare to drop cloak, James said. He paused for a moment, letting the weight of the moment settle over him. Once they revealed themselves, there was no going back. The secret war would be over, and the hot war would begin. But James preferred a hot war. In a hot war, you could fight back. The Resolute began to move. It was a behemoth, 5 miles long from bow to stern. As it drifted out of the moon's shadow, the sunlight hit its hull. It was painted a dark, non-reflective gray, but it was the shape that mattered. It wasn't sleek like the alien ships. It was blocky, angular, and covered in turrets, missile pods, and massive launch bays. It looked like a flying fortress, a brick thrown in the face of the universe. Steady, James whispered. The Vex ships were waiting. They saw nothing on their sensors, just the empty void where the moon's shadow ended. They were confident, arrogant in their superiority. They continued their countdown, their weapons glowing brighter as they prepared to fire on the helpless planet below. 3 minutes until impact, Sarah announced. James gripped the armrest of his chair. He knew what the aliens would see when the cloak dropped. They would see a ship that shouldn't exist. According to galactic experts, Earth was centuries away from building a capital ship. The Resolute wasn't just a ship, it was a violation of the natural order of the galaxy as the Vex understood it. It was a lie made of steel and plasma. Mark, James said. Did they reply? No, sir, Mark answered. They are hailing us, but it is just static. They are scanning us, but their sensors can't penetrate the hull. They will see us soon enough, James said. David, how are the reactors? Running at 110%, sir, the engineer replied, his voice booming. She wants to run. Let her off the leash. James smiled grimly. He looked at the main screen. The Earth was so beautiful. If he failed today, that blue marble would become a graveyard. But he had no intention of failing. Humans were survivors. They fought when they had to, and right now, there was nothing more dangerous than a human backed into a corner. Drop the cloak, James ordered. Decloaking, Sarah said. She pressed a single button. In the void of space, reality seemed to bend around the Resolute. The light from the stars distorted, twisting around the massive hull. Then, with a sudden ripple, the invisibility field collapsed. The Resolute appeared. It didn't just appear, it loomed. It filled the space between the moon and the Earth, a mountain range of gray steel blocking the path of the Vex fleet. The lights on its hull flickered on, thousands of running lights and weapon ports glowing red. On the bridge, the silence was deafening. Everyone held their breath. Sensors show the Vex have spotted us, Sarah said, her voice rising slightly. Their fleet is breaking formation. They are confused. Good, James said. Let them be confused. Target their flagship with the forward main batteries. Lock on. Target locked, Sarah confirmed. Ready to fire on your command. The Vex ships began to turn, their smooth movements turning erratic. They hadn't expected a resistance. They certainly hadn't expected this. The UES Resolute was twice the size of their largest dreadnoughts, and it was bristling with weapons they didn't recognize. Message from Earth Command, sir, Mark said. They are asking if we are friendly. They didn't know we were there. James chuckled darkly. Tell Earth Command to sit back and enjoy the show. He looked at the alien ships on the screen. They were hesitating. That was their mistake. They were giving the Resolute time to fully deploy its weapon arrays. Missile bay doors slid open, revealing rows of nuclear-tipped harpoons. The massive railgun turrets rotated, tracking the enemy ships. Send another message to the Vex, James said. Use the wideband channel. Let everyone hear it. Ready, sir. Tell them, James said, his voice hard as iron, that Earth is not theirs to take. Tell them that this is our planet. And tell them that if they want to come and get it, they will have to go through us. Mark sent the message. For a long moment, nothing happened. The two fleets stared at each other across the vacuum. The Vex, a swarm of deadly insects, and the Resolute, a solitary, armored giant. Then, the Vex reacted. Their commander, arrogant and angry, ordered the attack. Beams of violet energy lashed out from the alien fleet, spearing through the darkness toward the Earthship. Brace for impact. James yelled. The beams struck the Resolute. The ship shuddered violently, throwing crew members against their consoles. Alarms blared, red lights flashing across the bridge. But the shields held. A bubble of blue energy flared around the ship, absorbing the alien fire. Report. James shouted, pulling himself back to his feet. Shields are holding at 90%, Sarah yelled back over the noise of the alarms. Minor damage to the outer hull. Section 4 reporting a hull breach, but emergency containment fields are up. David laughed from the engineering pit. Is that all they have? My grandmother throws harder than that. James looked at the screen. The alien beams had stopped. The Vex were pausing, confused why their first strike hadn't vaporized the human ship. They had expected glass to shatter, instead, they had hit a diamond and cracked their own knuckles. They don't know what hit them, James said. Sarah, target the lead ship. The big one in the center. Fire the main rail guns. Aye, sir. Firing main batteries. The bridge of the Resolute shook again, but this time it was the recoil of their own weapons. Two massive rails ran along the top of the Supercarrier. Electromagnetic accelerators propelled solid shells the size of cars at fractions of the speed of light. On the screen, two flashes of light erupted from the Resolute. Invisible projectiles streaked across the void. They crossed the distance between the fleets in the blink of an eye. There was no sound in space, but the impact was spectacular. The Vex flagship, a giant teardrop of violet metal, simply disintegrated. The railgun rounds tore through its shields like paper, smashing through the hull and exiting the other side. The ship exploded in a silent bloom of fire and debris, lighting up the dark space. The bridge crew watched in awe. They had trained for this for years, but seeing it in real life was different. One shot. One kill. Target destroyed, Sarah reported, a hint of triumph in her voice. The rest of the fleet is breaking off. They are pulling back. They are running, James said, watching the alien ships turn and flee toward the edge of the solar system. But they will be back. He sat back in his command chair, exhaling a breath he felt like he had been holding for 50 years. The Resolute had done its job. It had protected Earth. It had bought them time. But James knew that today was just the beginning. The galaxy had seen the stick. Now, the galaxy knew that the humans were awake, and they were angry. Secure from battle stations, James ordered, his voice weary but strong. Repair the damage. Get the engineers on that hull breach. And tell the kitchen to make coffee. I have a feeling it's going to be a long night. He looked out the viewport at the stars. They were no longer just points of light. They were destinations. And the Resolute was going to visit them all. The secret was out. Earth was not weak. And the galaxy was not ready for what came next. The silence that followed the destruction of the Vex flagship was heavier than the silence before the battle. On the bridge of the UES Resolute, the crew watched the main screen in disbelief. The massive alien ship, once a symbol of invincible power, was now nothing more than a drifting cloud of burning debris. The explosion painted the darkness of space with violent streaks of orange and red, illuminating the scared faces of the Vex pilots who had survived. James stood motionless, his hands resting on the back of his chair. He did not cheer. He did not smile. He only watched, his eyes calculating the next move. He knew that one victory did not win a war, but it certainly got the enemy's attention. Report, James said, breaking the stillness. Sarah was the first to react. She shook her head slightly, clearing the shock from her mind, and looked down at her console. The Vex fleet is in complete disarray, sir. Their formation has broken. They are scattering like frightened fish. Their command structure is gone. David's voice boomed from the engineering pit below. Shields are holding steady at 85%. We took a hit, but the armor is thick. The starboard side is a little scorched, but it looks worse than it is. The old girl is tough. Good, James said. Mark, what are they saying? Are they running? Mark listened intently to his headset, his fingers flying over the communication board. It's chaotic, sir. I am picking up hundreds of transmissions. Some are screaming in fear, others are shouting orders to retreat. But there is one signal coming from the largest remaining ship. It is very powerful. Put it on the screen, James ordered. The view of the explosion flickered and was replaced by the image of an alien. It was a Vex, but it looked different from the others. It was taller, encased in intricate gold armor instead of the standard gray metal. Its face was hidden behind a mask, but James could feel its cold stare. The alien spoke, and the computer translated its voice instantly. "Primitive humans," the alien sneered. "You have made a grave mistake. That vessel was a sacred construct of the Vex Dominion. By destroying it, you have signed the death warrant of your entire species. We are the Vex. We do not surrender. We do not forget. We will burn your world to ash for this insult." James leaned forward. "Tell that to the burning wreckage behind me." The Vex commander ignored him. "You reveal a secret ship. A brute weapon of crude metal. You think this scares us? It only makes us angry. We will swarm you. We have thousands of ships. You have one. Mathematics dictates your destruction. You cannot survive the weight of our numbers." The transmission cut out abruptly. "Mathematics," Alice said softly from her station near the back. She had been listening quietly. "They always rely on numbers. They believe in certainty. They do not believe in chaos." James looked at her. "And we are the chaos, Alice. They don't know how to fight us because they don't understand us. To them, we should still be living in caves, throwing rocks at each other. They never thought we would build a fortress like this. But they are right about one thing, sir," Kyle spoke up from the pilot's seat. He turned to look at James. "They do have the numbers. I'm seeing tactical readouts here. There are still over 2,000 Vex ships out there. We destroyed their biggest one, yes. But we are one ship against an armada." James walked down the metal stairs to the lower deck. He stopped in front of the main tactical map, a holographic table that glowed in the center of the room. Red dots represented the Vex fleet, and one single blue dot represented the Resolute. The red dots were swarming, moving to surround the blue dot. "They are trying to encircle us," James said, studying the map. "They want to cut off our retreat and bombard us from all sides. They think if they hit us with enough beams at once, our shields will collapse." "Can they?" Sarah asked, walking over to stand beside him. "They can try," David called out from below. "But I've got a surprise for them. The capacitors are charged. The shields are not just a bubble, Sarah. They are active. They absorb energy. The harder they hit us, the more power we get." James nodded. "That is our advantage. We built this ship to fight enemies who were stronger than us. We learned to use their strength against them." He looked up at the crew. His face was serious. "We revealed ourselves to protect Earth. Now, we must show them why they should be afraid. We are not going to hide behind the moon anymore. We are going to advance." "Advance?" Mark asked, his eyes widening. "Into the middle of their fleet." "Yes," James said. "We need to break their spirit. They think they are safe in their numbers. We need to show them that no number is high enough. We are going to drive this ship right through their center." The crew exchanged glances. It was a crazy plan. It was dangerous. But they were veterans of the secret war, the silent guardians who had spent years training for a moment that might never come. They trusted James. "Helm, set a course," James commanded. "Straight through the middle. Maximum speed." Kyle gripped the controls tightly. "Course laid in, Captain. Ready to punch a hole." "Weapons free," James said to Sarah. "Target anything that moves. Don't conserve ammo. We have plenty of missiles in the base. Let them rain." "Sir," Mark said, "I have Earth Command on the line again." They are demanding to know what is happening. They see the debris field and the energy spikes. They are asking if we need assistance. James laughed shortly. Assistants tell them to stay inside their planetary shields and watch the fireworks. Tell them the Resolute has the situation under control. He walked back up to the command platform. Engage. The Resolute groaned as the massive engines flared to life. The ship, which had been stationary, surged forward. It moved with a surprising grace for a vessel of its size. It accelerated rapidly, heading directly toward the swirling mass of the Vex fleet. On the screen, the alien ships grew larger. They began to fire. Beams of violet light crisscrossed the void, aiming to disable the human supercarrier. But the Resolute was rolling and diving, its movements defying its bulk. Shields are absorbing the energy, David shouted happily. I am routing the excess power to the forward railguns. They are charging faster than normal. Fire at will. James roared. The Resolute erupted. It wasn't just the main guns this time. Hundreds of smaller turrets along the hull opened fire. Missiles streaked out from the launch bays like angry hornets. The space between the two fleets filled with the trails of human weapons. The Vex ships tried to dodge, but they were packed too tightly. Their formation, meant to intimidate, became their tomb. Human missiles slammed into their hulls, detonating in bright flashes. The railguns fired rhythmically, the thumping sound vibrating through the deck plates, sending tungsten slugs tearing through alien armor. The Resolute plowed into the center of the enemy formation. It was like a knife cutting through hot butter. The human ship fired to the left and right, destroying escort ships and fighters. The Vex had never encountered anything like this. Their enemies usually stayed at a distance, sniping with lasers. This human ship wanted to get close. It wanted to brawl. Watch the left. Sarah yelled. A squadron of Vex dive bombers swooped in, aiming for the bridge. They fired rapid-fire plasma bursts. I got them! Kyle shouted. He threw the ship into a sharp barrel roll, causing the alien shots to streak harmlessly past the viewports. Kyle, launch the interceptors. Already done, sir. Kyle replied. The Wasps are away. From the bottom of the Resolute, small, sleek human fighters shot out. They were fast and agile, piloted by the best pilots Earth had trained. They swarmed the Vex bombers, engaging them in a deadly dance. The human pilots were better. They had been trained in simulators that modeled thousands of alien tactics. They moved with precision, shooting down the Vex ships one by one. Inside the bridge, the noise was intense. Alarms were blaring, consoles were beeping, and the crew shouted updates. But through it all, James remained calm. He was the eye of the storm. He watched the tactical map, looking for the weak points. They are faltering, James observed. Their discipline is breaking. They cannot coordinate under this kind of pressure. Sir, I am detecting a power surge on the Vex command ship, Sarah warned. The one with the gold armor. It is charging a main weapon. A beam weapon, much larger than the others. Target lock, James said instantly. All forward batteries, focus fire on that ship. Do not let it fire. The Resolute turned slightly, bringing its full broadside to bear on the alien command vessel. The distance was closing rapidly. They are charging, David warned. That beam will cut us in half if it hits. Not if we hit them first, James said. Fire! The main railguns roared again, sending a volley of heavy slugs screaming across the void. Simultaneously, the missile batteries launched a massive wave of nuclear-tipped warheads. The Vex command ship tried to raise its shields, but it was too late. The human attack was overwhelming. The railgun rounds hammered against the alien shields, shattering them. Then, the missiles struck. The explosion was blinding, even on the main screen filtered for brightness. The alien command ship vanished, replaced by an expanding sphere of nuclear fire. The shock wave washed over the Resolute, shaking it violently, but the sturdy ship held its course. "Direct hit," Sarah yelled. "Target destroyed." James watched the fireball. "That is their commander gone. Now, let's see if they want to keep fighting." He opened the ship-to-ship communication channel again. This time, he did not wait for them to speak. "This is the captain of the Resolute," James broadcasted to the entire sector. "Your leaders are gone. Your flagship is dust. Your weapons are useless against us. We gave you a chance to leave. You did not listen. Now, we offer you one last chance. Drop your weapons and surrender, or join your commanders in the void." The silence on the bridge was absolute as the crew waited for a response. On the screen, the remaining Vex ships were drifting. The red dots on the holographic map were no longer attacking. They were pulling back, moving away from the terrifying gray shape of the human ship. "They are retreating," Mark said, disbelief in his voice. "They are actually retreating. They are running for the hyperspace lanes," Sarah added. "They are leaving the system." James let out a long breath. He felt the tension leave his shoulders. They had done it. They had faced the might of the Vex fleet and they had won. Not just survived, but dominated. The galaxy wasn't ready for humanity, and today, the Vex found out the hard way. "Let them go," James said quietly. "Don't chase them. We are not butchers. We are defenders." He looked around the bridge at his tired crew. They were smiling now, relief washing over their faces. They had faced the monsters and lived to tell the tale. "David, secure the engines. Sarah, set up a defensive perimeter around Earth. We stay here. We make sure they don't turn around." "Aye, sir," the crew responded in unison. James turned back to the view of the stars. The debris of the alien fleet floated around them, a grim testament to the power of the Resolute. The secret was out. The galaxy knew now that Earth was not a planet to be trifled with. Humanity was awake, armed, and very, very dangerous. And as the stars twinkled innocently in the distance, James knew that the universe would never be the same again. The debris of the Vex fleet drifted silently in the darkness, reflecting the light of the distant sun. It was a graveyard of twisted metal and burnt circuits. The UES Resolute floated in the center of this destruction, its massive hull scarred but unbroken. The immediate threat was gone, but the bridge was far from quiet. The air hummed with the sound of cooling systems and the frantic chatter of the crew. David stood in the engineering pit, his face covered in grease and sweat. He was shouting into his communicator, directing teams of damage control officers to various sectors of the ship. The cooling fans were spinning so fast they sounded like jet engines, trying to dissipate the heat from the weapons systems. "Report on the port side shields," David barked. "I need those capacitors discharged before they blow up in my face." James stood at the railing overlooking the pit. He looked tired, but his eyes were sharp. He watched his chief engineer work with a sense of pride. The ship had taken a beating, but it was still flying. That was a testament to human engineering and stubbornness. "Sir," Sarah said from the tactical station. Her voice was hoarse from shouting commands during the battle. I am tracking the remaining Vex ships. They have jumped into hyperspace. They are gone. James nodded slowly. They are running back to their masters with their tails between their legs. But they will be back, Sarah. They never give up. I know, she replied. But next time, they will bring more ships. We used the element of surprise today. They won't underestimate us again. Then we will just have to be bigger and meaner next time, James said. He turned his attention to the main screen. It showed the Earth, beautiful and blue, spinning peacefully in the void. How is Earth Command reacting? Mark, the communications officer, looked up from his console. They are in shock, sir. The planetary defense grid is still on high alert, but the firing has stopped. I have the president on the line. He wants to talk to the captain of the mystery ship immediately. James walked down the stairs to the center of the bridge. He took a deep breath. This was the moment he had been trained for, yet it felt surreal. For 50 years, the Resolute project had been a ghost story, a rumor among the highest levels of government. Now, it was the only thing standing between humanity and extinction. Put him through, Mark. On the main screen, the image of space flickered and was replaced by a man sitting in a high-tech office. He was older, with gray hair and weary eyes. He wore a suit that looked like it hadn't been changed in 2 days. It was the president of the United Earth Coalition. Captain, the president asked, leaning forward. Is that you? Am I speaking to the commander of the vessel that just saved the planet? This is Captain James of the UES Resolute, Mr. President, James answered, standing at attention despite the president not being able to see his lower body. The president let out a long breath. I don't know where to begin. We watched the battle from the ground. We saw you destroy their flagship. We thought we were dead. Where did you come from? We were told the fleet project was cancelled 30 years ago. That was what we wanted everyone to believe, sir, James explained. The Resolute and its sister ships were built in secret, funded by black budgets and hidden resources. We knew the galaxy was a dangerous place. We knew that eventually, someone would come to take what we have. We wanted to make sure we had a welcoming committee ready. Sister ships? The president asked, his eyebrows raising. There are more. There are, sir, James said. But the Resolute is the only one currently operational in this sector. The others are on different missions or still under construction. The president rubbed his face. This changes everything. The Galactic Council will be in an uproar. The aliens, the Vex, they are a member race. You just wiped out a significant portion of their military. They fired first, Mr. President, James said, his voice hardening. They demanded our surrender. They threatened our cities. I did what was necessary to protect the 8 billion people on that planet. I don't care about the council or their politics. I care about Earth. And you did your job, the president said, his voice filled with gratitude. The entire world is in your debt. But what do we do now? We can't hide you anymore. You are visible to every telescope on Earth and every sensor in the galaxy. We don't hide anymore, James said. That era is over. We go public. We tell the people of Earth that they are safe, and we tell the galaxy that we are not to be messed with. Agreed, the president said. I am calling an emergency session of the Global Parliament. We will discuss the future. But for now, I am issuing a directive. You are to hold position in orbit. You are the supreme authority in the space sector until further notice. Understood, sir, James said. Good luck, Captain. And thank you. From all of us. The screen cut out, returning to the view of the debris field. The bridge crew let out a collective cheer. It was a quiet cheer, a release of pent-up emotion. Mark looked at James. It feels good, doesn't it, to finally be recognized? James smiled slightly. It does, Mark. But don't get too comfortable. The work is just beginning. Suddenly, the tactical console began to beep. It was a rhythmic, urgent sound. Sarah leaned over her station. Captain, I have a new contact dropping out of hyperspace. It's not Vex. The atmosphere on the bridge shifted instantly from celebration back to battle readiness. Identify, James commanded. It's a small diplomatic ship, Sarah said, reading the data. It's broadcasting high-priority codes from the Galactic Council. It's a Silverbird-class transport. Unarmed? A diplomat, Alice asked, speaking up. They move fast. They probably want to see who destroyed the Vex fleet, James said. Let them in. Open a channel. A moment later, an alien face appeared on the screen. This alien was not a Vex. It had pale blue skin, large dark eyes, and a slender neck. It wore elaborate robes that seemed to float around its shoulders. It looked terrified. I am Ambassador Telos of the Galactic Council, the alien stammered. I am transmitting under the flag of truce. Please, do not fire. James looked at the alien calmly. This is Captain James of the UES Resolute. You are entering a secured combat zone, Ambassador. Explain your presence. Telos swallowed hard. I saw the tactical feed. The destruction of the Vex fleet. It is unprecedented. The Vex have been the terror of this sector for centuries. No one has ever defeated them in open combat, especially not with inferior technology. James raised an eyebrow. Inferior? I think your data is outdated. Telos held up a trembling hand. Please, Captain. The Council is in a state of panic. The Vex Dominion is demanding answers. They are gathering their armada for a retaliatory strike. They believe that Earth is a dangerous threat that must be eliminated. They are calling for a sanctioned purge. Let them come, James growled. We beat them once. We'll beat them again. You do not understand, Telos said, his voice rising in fear. The Vex have allies. Powerful races. If a full-scale war starts, the entire sector will burn. The Council wishes to intervene. We want to negotiate a peace settlement. But to do that, we need to understand you. We need to know who you are. Who we are. James walked closer to the screen. We are humans. We are from Earth. And we are done running. James looked at Alice. Prepare a shuttle. You, Kyle, and a security team will go to the ambassador's ship. We will meet them on our terms. Alice nodded. Yes, sir. Ambassador Telos, James said, looking back at the screen. We are sending a team to your ship. We will discuss the future of this sector. But tell your council this, Earth is not a colony. We are not a vassal state. If the Vex want peace, they will get it. If they want war, they will get a grave. The transmission ended. James turned to his crew. All right, you heard the man. The galaxy is watching us. David, I want those shields fixed within the hour. Sarah, keep the weapons hot. Kyle, ready the shuttle. We are going to meet the neighbors. Kyle stood up, checking his sidearm. Do you think they will listen, sir? James looked out the viewport at the stars. They will listen, he said. Because we have the biggest voice in the room right now. The Resolute is that voice. He paused, thinking about the years of silence, the years of hiding in the dark. Let's go show them what humanity looks like, James said. The crew moved with renewed energy. The battle was over, but the real war, the war for Earth's place in the galaxy, was just beginning. And the Resolute was leading the charge. The fear in the alien ambassador's eyes had said it all. The balance of power had shifted, and the galaxy wasn't ready for the new players at the table. But they were going to have to make room. Humanity had arrived, and they had brought their supercarrier. The small diplomatic shuttle glided away from the massive gray hull of the Resolute, moving across the black void of space toward the alien ship. The size difference was ridiculous. The Resolute was a mountain of steel and weaponry, while the Galactic Council ship, called the Silver Dove, looked like a toy boat floating next to a battleship. Inside the shuttle, the atmosphere was thick with tension. Kyle sat at the controls, his hands steady on the yoke, but his eyes darting across the instrument panel. He was a good pilot, one of the best, but flying through the debris of a destroyed alien armada was not something they taught in flight school. Alice sat next to him. She adjusted her uniform jacket, taking a deep breath to calm her nerves. She was the diplomatic expert, but she had never actually met an alien face to face until a few minutes ago on the screen. Now, she was going to stand on their ship and represent the entire human race. Are they hailing us? Alice asked, her voice crisp. They are, Kyle replied. They are giving us a flight path to Hangar Bay 3. They sound nervous. They should be, Alice said. They just saw us wipe out an entire fleet. Behind them, 4 security officers sat in silence. They wore heavy black armor and carried large pulse rifles. Their faces were hidden behind visors, but their posture was rigid. They were ready for anything. The shuttle approached the Silver Dove. The alien ship was sleek and curved, with no sharp edges. It was designed to look peaceful, not dangerous. As the shuttle passed through the energy field of the hangar bay, the gravity of the alien ship caught them and pulled them in. The landing gears touched down with a soft thud. Pressure is equalizing, Kyle said. Atmosphere is breathable, but it smells different. Keep your helmets on just in case. The back ramp of the shuttle lowered. Alice stood up and walked down the ramp first. She held her head high. She knew that every move she made would be analyzed. If she looked weak, the galaxy would think Earth was weak. She had to show them that humans were not afraid. The hangar bay was large and empty, lit by soft blue lights. Standing in a row at the bottom of the ramp were 5 aliens. They were of different species. Some were tall and thin, others were short and bulky. They wore robes of silver and gold. In front of them stood Ambassador Telos. Telos looked even more nervous in person. He shifted his weight from foot to foot as the humans approached. He held a small device in his hand that translated his words. Ambassador, Alice said, stopping a few feet away. She did not bow. I am Alice of the United Earthship Resolute. Greetings, Telos said, his voice trembling slightly through the translator. I am honored to host you. Please, follow me. The council is waiting to speak with you. The council? Alice asked. Here. No, Telos said quickly. We have a secure line set up in the conference room. The members are too afraid to come here in person. They are watching from the capital world. Alice almost smiled. The bullies of the galaxy were too scared to come to the scene of the battle. It was amusing. "Lead the way," Alice said. They walked through the corridors of the alien ship. Everything was smooth and white. It felt sterile, like a hospital. The humans, with their dark uniforms and heavy boots, looked out of place. The security officer's footsteps clanged loudly on the metal floor, while the aliens moved silently. They entered a large room with a long table in the center. On one wall, a large screen flickered to life. It showed the faces of 12 different alien leaders. They were the High Council of the Galactic Federation. They looked angry, confused, and worried. Alice stood at the head of the table. Tela sat down, but Alice remained standing. "Ambassador," one of the aliens on the screen said. He was a reptilian creature with sharp teeth. "Why have you come here? You destroyed a Vex fleet. You have broken the Treaty of Accords." "Treaty of Accords?" Alice asked calmly. "I have never heard of this treaty." "It is the treaty that prohibits primitive races from possessing weapons of mass destruction," the reptile hissed. "Earth was classified as a level 3 planet. You were not allowed to have interstellar warships. You have violated galactic law." Alice looked at the screen. She looked at each of the council members one by one. "Let me get this straight," Alice said. "You made a treaty saying we couldn't defend ourselves. You decided we were primitive without even asking us, and when the Vex came to destroy us, we were supposed to just die because of your treaty." "It is the natural order," another council member said. "This one was a floating gas bag with lights inside it. Some races are strong. Some are weak. The strong rule. The weak serve." "I see," Alice said. "And you thought Earth was weak?" "Obviously," the reptile said. "You had no spaceships. You had no shields. You were using fossil fuels." Alice took a step closer to the screen. "We didn't have spaceships because we were busy building this." She pointed out the window, though the window only showed space. She meant the Resolute outside. "For 50 years, we saw what you did to other planets. We saw how you governed. We saw how you enslaved species that didn't have big guns. We decided that we would rather be hidden and ready than open and dead. We built the Resolute in secret. We built it because we don't accept your natural order." The council members began to talk over each other. The noise was chaotic. "Silence!" Alice shouted. Her voice echoed in the room. The security officers stepped forward, gripping their rifles tighter. The room went quiet. "You are afraid," Alice said, her voice steady. "You are not angry about a treaty. You are afraid because a primitive race just defeated the Vex. You are afraid because we are stronger than you thought. You are afraid that your slaves might realize they can fight back too. We have thousands of ships," the reptile threatened. "If you do not surrender the Resolute and submit to inspection, the Galactic Federation will destroy you." Alice laughed. It was a cold, hard laugh. "You can't even touch the Vex," Alice said. "The Vex have been raiding your borders for 100 years, and you do nothing. But we killed them in an hour. Do you really think you want to fight us? Look at the data. The Resolute has enough firepower to glass a planet by itself. And we have more ships at home." The council members were silent. They were looking at their tactical data. They saw the truth. The Earthship was a monster. "So," Alice said, leaning on the table. "Here is our new treaty. Earth is a sovereign nation. We will travel where we want. We will trade with who we want. And if anyone Vex, Federation, or anyone else threatens Earth, we will wipe them out. That is the deal. Take it or leave it." The reptile stared at her. His eyes were narrow slits. You are putting the entire galaxy at risk. Humans are aggressive. You are violent. We are peaceful until we are punched, Alice replied. Then we punch back harder. That is the human way. There was a long silence. Finally, the floating gas bag spoke. What is it you want, Ambassador? Alice stood up straight. We want respect. We want a seat at your table. And we want you to send a message to the Vex. Tell them that Earth is under our protection. Tell them that if they come back, we will finish the job. The council members whispered among themselves. It took them 10 minutes to decide. Finally, the reptile spoke again. We agree to a temporary ceasefire, he said slowly. We will send an ambassador to Earth. We will discuss a new arrangement. But if the Resolute fires on another Federation ship, we will respond. Fair enough, Alice said. But remember this. The galaxy is changing. You are not the bosses anymore. We are here. She turned to Telos. We are leaving. Don't try to follow us. Alice walked out of the conference room, followed closely by her security team. They marched back to the hangar bay, the sound of their boots echoing. Telos watched them go. He felt a shiver run down his spine. He had been an ambassador for 40 years. He had dealt with hundreds of races. But he had never seen eyes like those humans. They were the eyes of predators. Back on the shuttle, Kyle strapped himself into the pilot seat. How did it go? He asked, a grin on his face. Alice smiled. We just told the galaxy to get out of our way. Sounds about right, Kyle said. He engaged the engines. Let's go home, Major. I think the captain is waiting. The shuttle lifted off and zoomed away from the Silver Dove. As they flew back toward the massive shape of the Resolute, Alice looked out the window at the stars. They were vast and cold, but for the first time in history, humanity did not feel small. They felt big. They felt dangerous. The secret was out, and the galaxy was trembling. Alice closed her eyes for a moment, thinking of the future. It would be hard. There would be more battles. But humans were good at war. And they were finally ready to play the game. The shuttle touched down on the flight deck of the Resolute with a gentle thud. The engines powered down, and the silence of the hangar bay returned. As the ramp lowered, Alice and her team walked out. They were met by a round of applause from the ground crew. It was not just polite clapping, it was loud, cheering, and relieved. The mechanics, weapons loaders, and medics had been watching the negotiations on the main screens. They knew that Alice had just stared down the galaxy and won. James stood near the blast doors, his arms crossed over his chest. He had a rare, small smile on his face. As Alice approached, he nodded at her. "Welcome back, Major," James said. "I hear you told the Galactic Council where to stick it?" "Something like that, sir," Alice replied, though she looked exhausted. "They are scared, Captain. They are more scared of us than they are of the Vex." "Good," James said. "Fear is a powerful tool. It keeps people polite." They walked together through the corridors of the ship. The mood on the Resolute had changed completely. Before, there was tension and the weight of a 50-year secret. Now, there was a buzz of energy. Crew members walked with their heads higher. There was laughter in the mess halls. They were no longer the hidden guardians of a doomed planet. They were the victors of the first battle. They arrived on the bridge. The main screen was no longer showing the debris field. Instead, it showed a beautiful view of the Earth spinning below. Orbiting the Earth were small shuttles and transports. "Report," James said, taking his chair. Sarah turned from her console. "Sir, we have a lot of traffic. Earth Command has sent up several supply ships. They want to refuel us and restock our missiles. Also, the global parliament has officially announced our existence to the world." "How are the people taking it?" James asked. "They are celebrating," Sarah said. "There are massive crowds in every major city. The internet is full of pictures of the Resolute. They are calling it the Iron Shield and the Savior. It is a relief," James said. "But we must not let them get too comfortable. The Vex are not gone for good." "Speaking of the Vex," Mark interrupted. "I just received a transmission. It is not from the Council, and it is not from the Vex High Command. It is a video transmission from inside the Vex fleet. It is coming from a rogue group." "Put it on screen," James ordered. The main screen flickered. An alien face appeared. It looked like a Vex, but its skin was a darker shade of gray, and its armor was damaged. There were burn marks on its shoulders. The alien did not look arrogant like the commanders. It looked desperate. "I am Commander Xylus of the Vex 4th Expeditionary Force," the alien said. His voice was rough, and the translation was a bit choppy. "I am speaking to the human ship Resolute. Please, do not shoot. We are surrendering." The bridge crew went silent. James leaned forward. "Surrendering? The Vex do not surrender." "We are not the Dominion," Xylus said quickly. "We are the soldiers who were ordered to fight. We were told you were primitive. We were told we would die in glory. But we saw what you did to the flagship. We saw you destroy the command structure. We have no leader. We have no orders to go home. The Dominion will execute us for failure if we return. We request asylum." James was stunned. He looked at Alice. "Asylum? They don't want to die," Alice said. "They know the Vex Dominion kills anyone who loses." "Can we trust them?" James asked Sarah. "They are drifting, sir," Sarah said. "Weapons are powered down. They are drifting toward the moon. They look sincere." James thought for a moment. This was a turning point. If he executed them, he would be just like the monsters he fought. If he let them live, he might start a revolution within the Vex ranks. "Send a message," James said. "Tell Commander Xylus that we accept their surrender. They are to dock with our lunar supply base. They will be disarmed and put into custody. But tell them they will be treated fairly. We follow the rules of war." "Aye, sir," Mark said. He sent the message. On the screen, the alien seemed to slump with relief. "Thank you," Xylus said. "We will serve." "We don't want servants," James said firmly. "We want peace. Dock and wait." The screen went blank. James looked at his crew. "Did you hear that the Vex are surrendering to us? That has never happened in galactic history." "They are learning," David said from the engineering pit. "They are learning that humans play by different rules." Over the next few hours, the Resolute became the center of a whirlwind of activity. Supply ships from Earth docked with the massive carrier, bringing food, fresh water, and ammunition. Engineers swarmed over the hull, welding patches over the scorched sections. But the most important arrival was yet to come. A sleek, white shuttle painted with the United Earth logo approached the bridge of the Resolute. It carried the official delegation from Earth. "Sir," Mark announced. The president is landing. Open the main observation deck, James said. I will meet him there. James left the bridge and walked to the wide observation deck at the front of the ship. He stood by the giant window, looking down at the blue planet. The air pressure in the room changed as the airlock cycled. A group of people walked in, led by the president. The president walked up to James and extended his hand. James took it. Captain James, the president said. I never thought I would stand on this ship. My father told me stories about the Ghost Fleet, but I thought they were just stories. They were real, Mr. President, James said. And we are here to stay. The world is in awe of you, the president said. But now, we must decide what to do next. The council is angry. The Vex are confused. And we have a supercarrier that everyone wants. The Resolute goes where it is needed, James said. But I have a request. Name it. I want to reveal the others, James said. We are not just one ship. There are 5 more hulls in the shipyards, waiting to be finished. And there are the destroyers hidden in the asteroid belt. It is time to bring them all out. If the galaxy wants a fight, we give them a fleet. If they want peace, we negotiate from strength. The president looked at James, then at the earth below. It was a big decision. But looking at the massive ship around them, the decision seemed easy. Approved, the president said. Wake them up. Mobilize the fleet. Let's show the galaxy that Earth is open for business. James felt a wave of satisfaction. He had spent his entire life hiding in the shadows, preparing for the worst. Now, the shadows were gone. The sun was shining on the Resolute. Weeks passed. The Resolute stayed in high orbit, acting as a guardian angel. Ships from other races began to appear, cautiously. They did not come to fight. They came to trade. They came to see the humans who had defeated the unbeatable. The bridge crew had changed. Kyle was now training pilots from other nations to fly the new Wasp interceptors. Sarah was designing new tactics for the fleet that was being assembled. David was busy upgrading the engines. Alice was the busiest of all. She was the head of the New Earth Diplomatic Corps. She spoke to aliens every day, setting the boundaries for the new human empire. One evening, James stood alone on the bridge. The night shift was on duty. The lights were dimmed. He stood looking out at the stars. Captain, Sarah said, walking up to him. You should get some sleep. You have been on the bridge for 18 hours. I'm just looking, James said. Do you remember when we were hiding behind the moon? We were so scared that someone would find us. We thought that if they found us, it was the end. I remember, Sarah said. I was terrified. Now, James said, pointing at a sensor blip on the screen. That is a trade ship from the Centauri system. And that one is a diplomatic ship from the Council. They are all lining up to talk to us. We aren't hiding anymore, Sarah. We aren't, she agreed. We are the loudest voice in the room. James smiled. The galaxy wasn't ready. They thought they could push us around. They thought we were just another primitive race to be conquered. They didn't know about the Resolute. And they don't know about what comes next. He looked at the photo of his family that he kept on his console. For 50 years, he had missed birthdays, holidays, and funerals, all to serve on this ship. It had been a lonely life. But now, because of that sacrifice, his grandchildren could look up at the stars without fear. They could dream of exploring them, not hiding from them. Earth is safe, Captain, Sarah said softly. Yes, James said. Earth is safe. And the rest of the galaxy better watch out. He turned and walked back to his chair. He sat down and looked at the main screen. The Resolute was just the beginning. The human race was like a coiled spring that had finally been released. They had creativity, aggression, and a stubborn refusal to give up. The galaxy had never seen anything like it, and it would never be the same again. Course set for the asteroid belt, sir, Kyle said from the pilot seat. We are going to meet the sister ships. James nodded. Engage. Let's bring the family together. The massive engines of the Resolute flared to life. The ship moved gracefully away from Earth, heading toward the dark edge of the solar system. It was no longer running away. It was leading the way. The secret was out, the giant was awake, and humanity was ready to take its place among the stars.